Now, as you know, we are here to learn web dev, right? Web development. From now till the semester ends, we are going to learn MERN stack thoroughly. Now, please remember that with the 45 minutes of time that we have, we will be covering a certain amount of MERN, but I will be sharing information and your mentors will be sharing information about how you can learn at home or whenever possible, how you can learn more about what has been taught in embedded learning, right? So please remember, what we are learning here is not the complete part. It's the main part that is required for project school. Those are the main questions that interviewers might ask and things like that, right? So please pay attention. Please make sure all your exercises in Tufan work. Whenever we open up an exercise in Tessellator, make sure it works fine. Understood? Make sure you get a 100 on 100. If it isn't working, please move front, come over to the front and get your questions or doubts cleared. Done? Now, what do you remember of HTML? 1 minute of HTML. What comes to your mind? Tags. What did we learn in the last session? Form tags. And what else about tags? What are the different types of tags? Inline and block. Very good. So we have inline, block, right? Block elements, however whichever way you write them, even if you write them one next to each other, they are going to start in a new line and they are going to take the whole block. Inline, even if you write the code one below the other, let's say paragraph and H1 and all, and then you have span. So span, even if you write one after the other, in the next line in the code, browser does not understand your new line character like in other languages. Browser only understands the tags. So it's going to look at span tag, one more span tag, it's going to put them next to each other. So span tags are inline and H1's paragraphs and all are block. Done. Now do we all know what ARIA rich tags are, or what is ARIA? ARIA?
They use for voice commands and
they take voice commands and okay.
Making websites more accessible.
Making websites more accessible. What is the full form of ARIA? Accessible rich internet applications. Shrikant sir is on leave today, so he will not be here. So I'll be asking all the questions and giving you all the answers, right? All the interesting questions. I'll try to be as interesting in terms of questions, right? So for a website to be accessible by all types of audience, you make sure you add ARIA as the attribute, ARIA tags as the attribute. Remember everybody, what does an attribute have? An attribute has a value. So attribute set is nothing but a key and value pair. So for any HTML element, you want to add more properties or more things to that, then you add them as attributes, right? Can you give me an example of an interesting attribute? ID, class. So do we all know what are global attributes? Global attributes are those attributes that are common among all the HTML elements. Like all the KMITians will have a hall ticket number. All the KMIT students have a class, a section that they belong. So ID, class, section. Like that, all HTML tags have an ID, a class. Now, is it a must? Is it mandatory for all the HTML elements for us to put all these values in? No, only on need basis. Why would you need an ID for an element?
When you want to reference it for something.
When you want to call it, when you want to reference it. Like, why do you want to know your ID? Because I want to make a note whether or not you were attentive in class, or whether or not you are part of something, or which section you are part of, or if I want to know your score, something like that. In case of HTML elements, the reason why we give an ID is JavaScript. Very good. So JavaScript, when it wants to talk to any of the HTML elements to modify the page, right? How do you make the page active? The page becomes active only if whatever has been seen is changing, right? If the elements are moving around, or something is appearing, something is disappearing, some color is changing, how is that possible? Interactivity in an HTML page is possible only through or mainly through JavaScript, right? So how does JavaScript get a hold of this one, of these elements that it wants to modify? Using ID, right? Now what is that thing where all the elements are arranged in the form of a tree? What is it called? I've had students who were in third year, or let's say who were facing interviews in the initial stages, right? So they would have gone till React. And in the interview, if the person asked you, can you give me an example of DOM manipulation? Right? The student would be like, oh my god, I know nothing about DOM manipulation. So the blank face. Do you all know what DOM manipulation is? What is DOM tree? Anybody? Document Object Model Tree. So your HTML page is in the form of a tree. That is called as a DOM tree. So when somebody says, do you know DOM manipulation? You say yes. Why? DOM manipulation is nothing but modifying the HTML page, that DOM tree, from within the JavaScript. Clear? So from JavaScript, or it can be using anything, but then DOM manipulation means modifying, hiding, showing, displaying, not displaying, changing the color. You are manipulating the DOM tree, right? So it's very important for you to know the terminology. If you do not know the terminology or how it is done or how it is done, you might know. But what it is called, that whole process, if you do not know, then you'll still have a tough time during the interview. So remember to understand the language, speak the language, say HTML page is being rendered. Don't use words like the page is not displaying, it is all gone, it is not working. Don't talk, we should not talk like amateurs, right? We should talk like we know what we are talking about. So say rendering, the page rendering is not happening properly and all, right? Now let's move on. So we looked at form tags and all. By the way, how many of you here tried adding different form tags apart from what was taught in class? Will you please raise your hand? How many of you have tried apart from what we discussed in class? The input type equal to text, input type equal to button, then what? Input type is equals to submit, excellent, and text area and the form. How many of you tried other elements apart from this? Good. There is a little select also is there, yes. Nobody else tried anything else? You all tried a few here. I see some people here, they are scattered, right? Guys, you will not know things just if you work only here and then get done with it. Try to do it without seeing. Try to explore more, okay? So the form has how many main attributes? What are the two main attributes of a form, please? Of a form tag? Action and method, right? Action gives where? Does what? What does action attribute take? It takes a value of another page. But what does it mean?
Where it is where the data is transferred.
Okay, one answer here. Anybody else? What does action do? I think some of you are saying, but then I can't hear that far. So I'm assuming you all know it's like the CR, wherever you want to collect the whole thing, and who do you want to send this information to? What page, right? So action has the name of the page to which all these values have to be submitted to. Then the next one is what? Method. What does method have? Get and post. What does get do? Anybody? What happens if I say method equals to get in form? Huh? It takes the whole data and displays. Very good. It displays all the information in the top of the location bar, please. Right? So if the information that you are sending to the server is not sensitive, you can put method equal to get. What is the default value? Get. What's the default value for action? Same page. It assumes that the page has intelligence to perform whatever action it is supposed to. So whether you have, when you have method equals to post, method equals to get, method equals to get is by default. If you do not want the information to be displayed in the location bar or the address bar at the top, you say method equals to post. So that was me going super fast with the recap. Okay. Now let's take it slow. Now we know how to create the HTML page, right? HTML and forms. So let's see what we are going to look at today. So there is this website. Make a note of it, please. Don't go to it now. There is this website called Web Archive. I think it is .org or .com. You can check it. Web Archive. There, see, the nerdy geeky me would want to go to that website. Actually, that website has the archives of all the websites. So if I want to know how MSN looked like 20 years ago, MSN.com or CNN.com, 20 years ago this day, if I want to know how the website looked like, I could go to that webarchive.org and then go check to see, pick the calendar and the date. It will show me exactly how that website was at that point in time. You will also see dots there in the page that shows how many times the website has been updated, meaning you will see a calendar and you will see dots. So it shows how many times that website has been updated in that year, right? Now why am I talking about all that? This is that in olden days, what do you think is this website? What website is this, please? MSN.com, MicrosoftNetwork.com. Big deal for us at that time because we all used only Windows or OS, everything. So this was like our go-to page for everything, MSN.com. Google wasn't there at that time, right? So this is how pages look like in olden days, right? Imagine buying something when a page looked like this, right? So there are many other pages. If you go to that website, they'll show you many pages. You can go and check, right? So yeah, I was talking about the geeky nerdy person in me. I would go to the page that my friend or somebody was born, what happened to a website or how the website looked like, and create a card on that. But up to you guys how you want to use that information. Web archive, you can go there and check how a particular website looked like when you were born or when, you know. But then coming back to the class, this is how McDonald's look like, right? The color is there, the logo is there. How does it look like now? This. So most of you I think here know where I am going with this conversation. So what am I trying to say? How did a site become whatever it was like that to this? There has been a lot of styling, positioning, styling, moving things here, there that has happened, right? So this is the concept that we are going to learn today. We are going to learn how to style a page, what are the different ways of styling a page. Now I think you all are clear on why, right? I don't have to explain to you why we have to style a page. We definitely have to style a page to get the attention, right? To get the attention of users, to make it more presentable, for a better UI, for a better UX. I can go on like that for another 1 or 2 minutes, like salient features of styling, but we are not in the regular JNTU session, so I'll go on. So you need to make your page look better, for people to stay on your page, for people to navigate around, and to make things simpler, easier to catch people's eyes, right? So how is that done? That is done using what is called as a style, right? Now can you please tell me, what does a browser understand? Does a browser understand any fancy language? No, it understands HTML and to some extent JavaScript, or a whole lot of JavaScript. So my style also needs to be a HTML tag. It needs to be an HTML tag for someone, for the browser to understand. So inside is a HTML tag or an attribute, right? Now what we are going to do next is I am going to go over and we'll have a hands-on stuff. I'll type and you can follow me if you can. Otherwise I'll give you the same 2 to 3 minutes time to catch up, okay? Okay, here comes the very important part. This is here we have CSS rules. What is the CSS? Cascading style sheet. Some of you already know what is cascading. Do you all understand what a cascading waterfall is? Waterfall, you know? Different types of waterfall? No? Highest waterfall, widest waterfall, Africa, America, here, there. Why are we discussing waterfall? Because cascading waterfall is a waterfall that falls like that, right? It's not a straight one. Why are style sheets named as cascading style sheet? Because if you have defined a style above and you have defined the style below, the style at the bottom will be picked. It gets overridden. Clear? So why is very important. Why is something called a certain particular word? You all must know. Cascading style sheet. You must be thinking, you told about adding a style tag or a style attribute. What is this sheet? It's called cascading style sheet language, like HTML, CSS is other thing. And you know the left brain, right brain people? Some are good at creativity, some are not, right? So style sheet and styling is also, I feel, one of those things. I barely managed to put a bare minimal style. I can go with color combinations. You'll see my color combinations in some time. I'm not that great at it. But for those who are really interested, you can check out different ways of styling the page and all that, right? But please remember, we are computer science engineers. If you want to pursue UI UX, that's a different story. But for now, I do not recommend you to go too deep into styling, because I'm going to give you shortcuts and I'm going to help you get a library using which you can do styling fast, okay? But you must understand what is happening, okay? Now let's go back. So style happens with what is called as CSS, Cascading Style Sheet Language, right? We'll come to what is a sheet. For now, let's understand styling. In that area at the bottom, you see 3 boxes, right? There, right? So, there's one style in the first white box. You're seeing CSS as a block at the top of the page. You see that? That's called internal style. In the second one, right, there is no box at all. For people in the front, do you see that there is an arrow mark, gray arrow mark pointing from this CSS to the second box? So, the style is external, meaning it is not in your HTML page at all. It is somewhere outside and you are pointing to that. So, you have an internal style where you have style at the top of the page. You have an external style where the style is outside. It's mentioned outside. Then the third one, the blue lines are within your gray lines. If your gray lines are the HTML code, the blue line is the style. So, that is within the page. So, what does that mean? That means what? The style is mentioned along with the HTML, along with the tag. You have an H1 tag, you have a paragraph tag, whatever tag you have, the style is mentioned along with the tag. Now, if you are asked, can you give me the different ways to style a page? I don't want you to blink an eye also. You should be able to tell like that. Styles are 3 things. You can add a style to an HTML page in 3 ways. One is internal, where you have style at the top of the page. One is inline, where the style comes along with the HTML tag. One is external, where you create a file, CSS file, and give a link to that in your page. Clear? Now, that is conceptually what it is. Now, we will go do a hands-on activity also to understand it better. Let me zoom out, right? Now, we will come to this. I would like you all to understand what we are doing, then we will come to what is the CSS rule set and all. Now, let us go and start working. Everybody, open up your Windows Explorer, go to Embedded Learning, go to the folder where you have exercises. I have them all in class. Today is day 5, so I have a day 5 folder set. I am going to right click, show more options, click on open with code. I'd like and I want, if I can insist, I'd insist everybody to make sure that you have that option. If you do not have it, double click on the VS Code installer and go through the same process again and make sure it says show me open with option. Then you will get that open with option, right? Now, I'm going to create one file. I'll call it as day5.html, or shall I call it as day5-style.html. Okay. So, can you focus for 2 to 3 minutes? Then I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes time and you can try it. Alright. So, you are creating a website for which you have a header tag H1, right? And in H1 you say welcome to my gadget world, or one of those, anime world, gadget world. Last time around I had at least half the population, meaning half the students creating anime website. So, are there any anime lovers here? See, now the hand goes all the way up. When I ask if it is working or not, it is only till here. Anyway, welcome to my gadget world, I have that there. So, I am supposed to create a website for somebody, and they said give me this heading. I said fine. Then they said please make it in a certain particular color, blue color or something. Style doesn't just generally, the style doesn't mean making it stylish or something, please. Styling is anything that is not what is default. Now, a quick question. I ask this question a lot of times when I take mock interviews. So, all the while we did not add any style, right, to our HTML pages. Did we add any style? No. But it still appeared in certain particular color with certain particular font style. How did that happen? There is some default. What is that default? There are some defaults, right? So, remember everybody, if you are asked what is the basic style that gets applied to your page, HTML page, you say it is browser default. The phrase is browser default, meaning whichever browser you open, the creators of that browser have given a default styling. In Firefox, the same page will look a little different. In Opera, it will look different. In Safari, it will look different. In Chrome, it will look different. Because all these browsers, based on their companies, have a default font family, font size, right? They are not very different from each other. The H1 might look the same height and width and all, but then the font might differ. So, by default, any HTML page, what style does it have? Browser default. Guys, please make notes or mental notes or physical notes, right? So, browser default is the default styling that all of these tags have, right? Now, we have H1. So, I am told, like I said, remember the screen that I showed earlier? What did that screen have? It had the blue line along with the tag. So, here we go. This is that blue box. In H1 tag itself, inside the H1, I say style equals to, and I mention everybody, forget about browser, forget about anything. How would you, if you were asked to create a program, how would you do it? You would give a property and you would give a value. Width is this much, height is this much, color is this, background color is this, foreground. So, you have a key and value. So, poor thing, one style tag, which is an attribute, can take, this is the key and this is the value. The value needs to be in double quote. But how many will it have? The colors, the sizes, the family, everything, right? So, there has to be a separator again. The separator here is semicolon. Please remember, the separator is semicolon. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Background color, BAC, IntelliSense. Please use only IntelliSense. Please take VS Code's help. Please do not type any of it. Pick always, type only half, say background color. The moment you say background color, the colors will be displayed. Like I said, my choice of colors is very different from some of you, so please don't mind. So, I just pick something that is dark so that people at the back also can see it. So, I have a background color is blue violet, there we go, and then some foreground color, I say color, say aquamarine. So, there I have live preview installed, so I get this one, say show preview, welcome to my gadget world, right. So, now that you know how it looks like, let me explain what I am talking about. Style, this one is an inline styling methodology. This is the key. You give a val equals and put a double quote for the value. But because style can have many parameters, inside that also you need to have a key value set, right. So, this is the key background color, the value is this, right, and for the next one you put a semicolon. Oops. Be careful, VS Code is very helpful. Sometimes it gets a little frustrating because the moment you hover over your mouse on that, it will give you an option and you by mistake click it. That's another thing, please, right. We will come to color in some time. Again, you separate multiple properties with a semicolon, key value. Like that, let us say you want to explore. So, you go to the semicolon, click there, control space, right. You want to, let us say, give a font style or font size or font family, right, foreground, background, what else can we have? Let me see, it allows let me leave it there, let me not clutter it. So, right now I have a background color and I have a color. Background hyphen color is the background color of that particular element. Color is the text color. Clear? So, these are some of the important things. Now, how do I mention background color? I am going to copy this over, put in Control V. Everybody, I just hovered my mouse over blue violet. Now, it is giving me options. Let me pick something there. Done, right? What? There. So, what did I do now? I picked from the color palette. What is RGB? Excellent, red, green, blue. So, I can mention that. There is a hex also, hash. I can mention that, hash, FF, hash, 00, hash, 11, triple hashes, double hashes. So, please make a note, color property in CSS. Make a note, research and see what are the different ways of adding it, right. So, there are some preset names, right? Like that there are some preset names, or you can give RGB, or you can give a hex also. So how you can give color? Now it's not only for background color, it's for this color also, right? Let me just say for this color, what do I want to pick? Always remember to check out MDN reference, not now, but whenever you get time. You click on MDN reference. So in any case, it will take you, you can go to MDN reference and check. But remember, MDN reference is very distracting, please. You go there, you get lost. It's a very eye-catchy and very nice fun stuff you get to see there. So don't go there yet, go there in the free time. Everybody, I'm going to copy these two, right? And then going to paste them in there, and I'll give you 3 minutes. See if you can get it working. Remember, most important thing is in double quotes, you have to mention, separate each rule set with a semicolon. I only gave for H1, you can try H3s, H4s, paragraphs, anything. Remember, make mental notes, electronic notes, physical notes to check MDN reference and learn more about these. Style tag, element selector, there. Okay, you already know what I am talking about. So I think even if you do not see it that clearly, it's okay, right? There is a H1, there is a paragraph which is starting, and another H1 at the bottom. These are all element selectors at the top. So how do you comment your code in CSS? How do you comment your code in CSS? / and asterisk, right? / and asterisk. This one here, please. It will look like, this looks like it's a multi-line comment. No. Guys, going forward or in this 1 month, you are going to learn different languages. In HTML it is less than, exclamation, hyphen, hyphen, right? But in CSS it is, so the moment you are in style tag, the commenting changes, because it is like, this style tag is like what? Everybody know what is consulate? Consulate, not in technical terms, in English, American consulate, Indian consulate in other countries, Switzerland, everybody, the embassy, you all know that, right? Must have seen many spy movies. So when somebody enters the embassy of a country in another country, in India, if you enter US embassy, what happens? Which rules apply? Not Indian rules. The embassy is their own, the rules of America or whichever country embassy that is applied. Similarly, even though you are on an HTML page, in the style tag, whatever you mention, the comments, all the rules are of CSS, specific to CSS. So the comments are also / and asterisk. Now these are not multi-line comments, even for single line it is / and asterisk, please make a note. Done? Okay. How many of you are done, have come this far and noticed? I need to see this very good. At the last, please, last rows, are you all done? Are you able to see the cascading effect where it is picking up the one below, the H1 style below than the one above, right? So these are called style. Now let's move on. This is all the internal styling, right? Let me go back, and here in the second paragraph or in the first H1 here, what do you say? Shall I write a style here? Let me give you a scenario. My team lead looked at the page and said, all right, SIREESHA, very good job. I see the page, it looks good, all H1s are good. But you know what? The one that is saying clearance right, I want that to be very bold and coming out of the page. So I want just that particular heading to have a different color. So what can I do? Add a inline, okay. Let's go and do that. Your friend says add inline styling. Style equals to, and I'll mention background color as aqua, right? And let me go back. You see that? These two are in red and black because the last H1 took over, but this clearance is not. So, which style takes precedence over all other styles? Inline style. Everybody please note, come what might, you should never use inline style, never. I will come to why we should not and all, but yes, the inline style takes precedence, but this is a bad way of coding. You should never write inline style unless it is an emergency situation where the CEO is going to fire you because of the mistake that you made in styling, or let us say the head of the company says my page, my picture should have a different background, should have a different color. Then you go to inline and say only for that particular thing. But that too, we have different ways of doing it. Hold on now please. So, what I am going to do is, I am going to keep it open. You all got it, right? Everybody got it? Inline and this one. Now, let us go ahead and create one more file. Now, how many of you have done this and how many of you need more time? I can't give too much time because then we will miss out on the concepts. I know this quadrant, these two quadrants are done. What about the last two there please? You are all able to do it? Everybody understood inline styling, internal styling, how inline takes over everything, and how even in internal styling the cascading effect, you give the style one more time and the one below gets picked and it overrides the rest of them, right? Everybody clear on that? Now, let us move to the other thing. What is the other thing? A little more about style. Okay? Now, this requires your complete attention. So, please focus. The reason why I say it is this is the way styling is usually done, right? So, let me create a new file, day5 style. Another one I will call it day5 hyphen selectors, okay, .html. Now, here I have an exclamation, got my HTML file. Now, here I go. We have about 15 minutes or so I think time before we start exercises. So, I would like your focus and then I need you to be a little bit fast, okay. So, I have an H1 tag and I say welcome to my anime world. Did I get the spelling right? ANIME, okay. There, right. So, I have my H1, right. Then I have my H2. How is it going, right. Then I have my paragraph, right, and I say check, check. Then somewhere here, everybody with me? Do not work along with me please. If you are not fast, then please do not work, try to understand what I am talking about, right. Then I have my H1 again, my favorite line, anybody knows? May the force be with you, Star Wars, right? The thing? Okay. So, we have all these. So, I have a very weird boss, let us say, not here, do not get me wrong. So, I am just giving you an example, a scenario, and that weird boss says the whole page, all the text in my page needs to be in one specific color. I will pick that color, that is going to be gaudy anyway. So, how do I do that? In the body tag itself, excellent answer. In the body tag itself, you can add to the body tag itself, you can say style equals to background color or just color. If you just say color, all the tags in my page will be of that color. Now, because he said that, I have to modify my question. Let us say he says, he or she, whoever my boss is, says, Sirisha, I want H1, H2 and P tags to be in one specific color. So, I will go, I told you inline is ruled out. So, you can't have it for H1, H2, P, H, you can't have it like that, right. So, let me add one more here because he said body tag. This will have default color. So I don't want H3 to have it, but I want H1, H2 and paragraph tags to have a specific color because my boss told me so. So inline is ruled out. So ideally, with whatever knowledge you have, you will say style and go for H1, right, and say color equals to, what shall we pick? Some color, SIREESHA, deep pink it seems, okay. So then H2, what are H1 and H2 here? What are H1 and H2? Selectors. What kind of selectors? Element selector. Please remember, element, because I am taking the H1, H2, this is element, right, in HTML. So here I am going to paragraph and I will say, please look at the screen, do not try it yet, right, and I will do a quick preview. You see that this one will have the default, browser default, rest all have the pink. But what the creators have done is to make our life simple. They said you can group the selectors with a comma. Everybody understood what I am saying? You can group the selectors H1 comma, H2 comma, paragraph, like this. You can group them together. You know how you are also grouped together into one, right? So like here also you have different selectors, okay, H1, H2, paragraph tag, they are all grouped together. And now the same effect, the user does not know how I have done it, I did not write, right, different one. So I am quickly going over here and I will say this is what? Element or group selector, CTOR control /, right, element selector, in that also group, right. The next thing, shall I give this code to you? I will just paste this code. Give you 2 minutes. I am also giving you the style tag. Try this please. Please remember to create a new file, selectors.html, and try it out. Done? How many are done with this one, grouping the selectors? At the back, there, the last quadrant here, done. Very good, excellent. So now if you do fast like this, then I will be able to explain things better. This is group selector, right. Now again, like I told you, my team lead is back. He says, he or she, let us make it he. He says, I don't want for all of them is okay, but for this special H1, I don't want that. And me being me, I don't want to use inline. Again I repeat, let me show what I am talking about. Or simply say go live, let us say. So welcome to my anime world is there. How is it going? The projector changes the color. Actually it's deep pink, so please understand. So may the force be with you, everything in one color. But my Star Wars fan, my lead says, I don't want may the force be with you in that color, or let us say what? Yeah, welcome to my anime world should be in deep pink, but I don't want this in that color. So what will you do? You will go for inline style. Some of you are saying ID, hold on to that thought. Now, instead, there is one other thing that we will learn. This is called grouping, right? So you can group things. Remember what we do after the filter test in first year here? We group you all in and put in one class. So here also, group selection is one, you can actually create a class. What do I mean by class? You can give it your name, right? So what am I going to do? I am going to say, everybody please focus for 2 minutes, dot, I will say my deep pink, okay, dot, and here I will say color or deep sky blue, let me say, and I will name it as my deep sky blue. So instead of grouping the selectors, I actually gave a name, my own name to that, and gave it a value, right? Now you must be thinking, my SP style. Why only color, ma'am? Can I give everything? Yeah, you can give anything. Font, let me not give font, let me give a background color, and blanched almond, I do that. So then what? Do I want a shadow maybe? Text shadow? I don't know. One, you can give how much ever you want. Box, text, because we didn't learn that yet. I don't want to confuse you guys. So everybody, group selectors, comma separated element names, and you are done. So instead of that, now I just said dot is for class. So this is called as a class selector. Okay. How do I do that? I'll just copy this one and mention wherever h1 class equals to that, right? h2 control C, control V, same thing. So whatever the item, the element might be, see we don't have, actually in live coding, the fun part is when I make mistakes, but now because it's only 45 minutes, I'm not getting to do that, right? So I'll just leave that there. You see that now? This is blanched almond and this is the deep sky blue, it seems. Done? So you can group them together like that. You can have a dot and say I belong to a particular class and give all the styles for that particular thing, and wherever you want you say class. One area that many of us get confused is where do I say class and where do I put dot? This comes from practice. The dot comes in the style. The class comes as an attribute for the element. Remember I told ID, class, these are all uniform or global attributes, right? So this is that class. Clear everybody? So what am I going to do now? I am going to give you 2 minutes. And I'll only give what has been changed, please. So that is your class selector. And in HTML page, how will you do? How will you add it? See if you can do it without seeing. Don't look at it and copy as is. It's very simple. The first part needs to be inside the open and close style tag. The one below, that is clearly in HTML tag h1, it has to be inside the body. So we have looked at inline style, we are looking at internal style. In internal style we are looked at element selectors, grouping selectors. Everybody done? Think we still have about 10-15 seconds. Remember, the faster you do, the more time you will get on exercises. Did you hear me say what I just said now? I used a plural for exercises. So you are going to have multiple today. Done? How many of you got it, please? Got this whole thing working? This side good? In the front? No? They are like, she knows we did it anyway. Done? All right. Very good. So inline, internal, element selector, selector and rule set, grouping selectors, class selector, right? Now let's move on and look at one more thing. One of your friends said, right? One of your friends said, I have class. It does feel good to get to have that specific, right? What you see is what you get. There, done. Yeah, so here we are, there is a class, right? Now I have an H1 which not only has this class, but I'd like this H1 to be very special, right? I don't want it to pick this class, right? Or instead of disturbing this, let me go ahead and say I have an H4. Everybody focus. H4, and this H4, let me say I give it as any other taglines. I don't know. What is that? I saw somebody had a Wi-Fi like this. Alasyam Ainda Aryaputra was their Wi-Fi name. Acharyaputra. Okay. See, got it wrong. Okay. So we have something like that, and there is one more H4. I said something like that. So we have H4 and H4, right? For this H4, let me go ahead and give a element selector. Everybody focus. In H4, I want to go with a background color of dark green, right? And I want to go with the foreground color or the actual color to be blanched almond, something that I am wearing today, right? So H4, that. Now I will go here. Let me go check. Done? But like your friend said, he said class, but let me pick this. I have an element selector, everybody. I have two things. This is my style. But I don't want it to pick that particular thing, and I also do not want to give, everybody focus please, I don't want to go for inline style because that is bad. We are not supposed to use inline style at all. It is a wrong way of styling things. You don't hard code, right? Remember using brute force in lead code or anywhere? That is that's not good at all. So like that here, I don't want to use inline. So what I do is I'll give it an ID and say special, right? So I'll go here, and here note please hash. ID is always hash. So I'll say special and say for this one the foreground color can be azure. So when I go, you see the difference is not that clear, right? So let me change the color to something else. Something that, you see this is the hex, hash FF 4 zeros. So ID is extremely unique. I make sure I said that word extremely, though it doesn't require the sentence. When I say ID itself is unique itself is enough, but then extremely meaning only that. I just want you to focus. Remember, bear it in mind that ID is something that only one element should have, please. You cannot have multiple IDs, only one element should have that ID. Browser is very understanding piece of software. It understands if you give multiple IDs, but then the code is going to get messed up. So always use a unique ID for one element only, right? So you have an ID. Look at this please. I have an element selector with H4 to which I have given some values, but for one H4 I want it to pick that particular element selector, but for the other one I want it to pick the special style that I have given. So I'll give ID as special. Remember, ID starts with a hash, and we have today's exercises on this, so make sure you get the concept correct. So ID will have a hash. When you are using it, you say ID equals and then give that. It will pick that ID. Done? Now, while you are trying that, let me try one more. H5 class equals to orange or my orange, right? And then here Am I in orange color? Then I'll have one more H5, everybody. Am I in orange again? Done? So I gave, this is me playing around, a class, and I'm going to give an ID as OR. Okay? Let me go back here. A class selector, so dot orange, or what was that? My orange, right? Orange selector should have a rule set. So I'll have the color and ORAN, that is the orange. Now the other one, the ID that I gave is what again? What is missing here? Oh, the above one only. So ID is OR, right? So let me go there. What should I write here? Very good, not dot. Hash OR there, and for this one, color is olive drab. Okay? So this is a question for you all. I have a selector to which I have added a class and an ID. So which one do you think will get picked? Everybody here says ID? Let's see. But I gave a class as orange and I gave an ID as olive drab. I go all the way down. First H1 is my orange. First H5 is my orange. Second one is my orange and ID, both. Right? So now let's check. So which has the highest precision? Very good. People at the top, back please. So even if you give a class, if you give an ID, ID takes over. Like inline style takes over, like that, ID takes over. Please make sure you understand this. These are all important questions that are usually asked in the interviews. So I need you all to be clear, right? So what we have seen, we have seen element selectors, we have seen a class selector. I told you how you can have class selector like that by saying class equals to, mention it here, and at the top start them with a dot, right? Then I told you how you can be very specific with ID. You can say ID equal to special and have your own special, so that is the ID selector. Then I don't mean to confuse you, but I want you to be aware that a single element can have different rule sets, please, right? Usually an HTML page, what do you think is the average lines in an HTML page? 1000 to 1500 lines. They are not using React, right? So the style is usually outside, but for now I just explained, I am keeping it very simple for you. So like that you have a class. If you just give the class, it will pick the class. But if not, it's going to, if you give the class and an ID, it's going to pick the ID. So the precision is very important. Not only is the closeness to the element, but also the kind of selector that you are using. Selector, is it element, class or ID? Which selector? Done? Now, what shall I do? I'll copy this over. Oh, 10:52 already. We'll start the exercise. All right, everybody. Let me just copy this over. Another 5 minutes we have. Mohan is making some changes. All right. So guys, looks like we have some time, but then that means the time for the exercise will be less. So be prepared. Now, here we have selectors. I'm going to copy over these selectors. Let me make the note here by saying what? ID selector takes precision. Done? So I'll go all the way here from special, from here. I'll just, or was it above it? Here we are, Control A, V, Everybody got this one? The next is how do you use it? I'll just put this last one in one line, okay, for the sake of displaying the complete content. But the ideal way is writing like this. How much time again? 3 minutes. So the special is a class ID selector. This is a class selector. This is another ID selector. For this one, I just gave my orange, which will work fine. For this one, I gave both class and ID selector, and I'm checking. And I would like you all to see when there is both class and ID, what happens. How many of you got it working? Good. What about the people at the back, please? Got it working? Please check it. Get done with it. The next thing will be to move this over and put it in an external style sheet. I'll share links on what all you need to learn.